Okay, here's another one, a little bit negative. Someone also stated that the mismanagement of funds highlighted in the 2023 audit is deeply concerning, and that we have $9 million in reserves sitting idle.
Yeah.
And so I'm asking that for clarification.
Sure.
I mean,
It's hard to, most of that nonsense, it's hard to even justify it with an answer because
Right.
it's nonsensical. But I'll say simply there's a lack of awareness on anybody's part that would say anything remotely close to that. Obviously, we have an annual audit. Yo and Yo, fairly good at what they do.
Right.
Fairly well known.
Well known.
They're the standard around here. Has done a comprehensive audit, obviously, of every single one of our funds. And,
Right. Now,
so
somebody said we have $9 million sitting
Yeah.
idle. I'm assuming, just like everybody else, we try to have a little bit of money in the bank
yeah,
to be able to use for
I
what's needed.
appreciate you asking that. In regards to our audit, first and foremost, though, obviously it's as clean as it gets.
Right.
It is unmodified, basically.
Or there would be repercussions.
There are no issues,
Yeah.
with our audit. It's as clean an audit as you could possibly get. And it's online. Obviously, school districts are incredibly transparent. It's on our transparency report. You can read every page of it. You can see where every dollar, was spent.
Right.
And Yo and Yo certainly gives us as high a rating as you can possibly get. So,
Right.
In regards to the $9 million, certainly we have a $55 million a year budget, essentially. $9 million between $8.8 $9.2 million in fund balance. Some of that is allocated, certainly some of it is unallocated, but it represents between 14.8 and 16.2% of our operating budget. And certainly MSBO or any of the professionals or anybody in the business
Right.
knows that best practice and certainly what you are supposed to have in there is 15 to 20% of your operating expenses. Many people don't know that our schools, certainly July, August, September, and October function. We pay folks to work
Right.
throughout the summer. We pay our teachers when they come back in August and September and October, and we don't get a dime from the state of Michigan to pay those bills
Right.
until mid to late October. And so you've got to have 10 to 12% at a minimum to keep yourself from borrowing to make payroll. And so it would be incredibly financially, probably irresponsible to have to borrow money and pay interest on it to make payroll. And certainly, we don't know exactly how many kids are going to walk through the door. You're
Sure.
funded on that. You don't know exactly your allocations from other grants, state and federal. You don't know whether or not there will be a mid-year cut, as there were,
Right.
a few years back. And so we pride ourselves on putting as much of our foundation allowance, as much of the funding right back into the classrooms. And we pride ourselves, frankly, and it's a mixed message, perhaps a little bit. We have one of the lowest fund balances in the county. If people explored fund balances, they would
Right.
realize that Flushing Community Schools is putting more into their resources and into their classrooms and support of kids and staff than most of the districts around us. And so you're not throwing anybody else under, but we don't have a huge rainy day fund.
Right.
We are as skinny as you can possibly be in regards to being able to meet payroll, take care of our obligations while we're waiting on that state aid payment, and while still meeting the needs of kids. So I'm proud to have between a 14.8 and 16.2. It's barely in keeping with what MSBO, school business officials and the
Right.
organizations certainly that help us with best practices. 15 to 20% should be the norm.
Right.
So we're right there. We're spending right down to that. And
Right.
as we settle contracts with folks, we're gonna do our best to spend right down to that.
Sure.
The state takes you over if you're below 5. You get a nice warning letter,
Really?
letter if you're below
Oh,
10.
okay. All right.
And you're on a list. And so to be at 14.8 to 16.2 is incredibly reasonable. And I mean, unfortunately, people that aren't in the business don't get that.
I guess I'll use the analogy that we all should have a little bit in savings just in case, and you have that's just a best practice across the board.
Without
Any
a doubt.
business, any personal, You should have something in savings.
And I know that's harder to do, which
It
is
is.
why, obviously fund balances are probably a little bit healthier now, as we had ESSER funding for 3 years. That ESSER money goes away September of this year, or basically a few months from now. If you don't have it spent, it goes back to the federal government. And so we've been able to do some things with that, but and that's probably the only reason fund balances are even in the best practice range for anybody.
Sure.
But when you look at best practices around the county, you're in the 20s, you're in the 18s to 20s to 25s.
Okay.
And those districts are poised certainly to spend more in the future years than we are on support staff.
Right.
They've got a bigger fund balance. And again, we take great pride in trying to meet the needs of kids and spend it, not sitting on it, of spending it.
And we're still at the lowest spending amounts basically across the board with all our neighbors. We're spending just, I mean, we look at the numbers and we're spending the least amount of all of our neighbors.
Yeah, I think something important, it is a great point, and certainly I've harped on it. And again, I think people like a comparison.
Sure.
And I'm not trying. We need to do what's right for Flushing, and we think we can do great things for Flushing kids and Flushing families and our community at a price point that's reasonable and still well below what almost everybody else is doing.
Yep.
And that's contrary to perhaps the perception. Again, I opened my tax bill, and I saw my taxes went up, and you shake your head. But in regards to the rate paid for school improvement, or the taxes that people have to pay in support of school improvement projects are incredibly low relative to others. Again, and people are doing the best in every community, and districts and school boards are doing the best in their community. But when you see a millage supported in Goodrich at 7.75, or in Montrose at 7.0, or in Grand Blanc at 6.3, or Davison at 5.14, or Fenton 5.0, or Linden 4.2, Creek 3.9, Clio 3.75.
Yep.
I hope and pray certainly that people in our community can see the value and the need and be able to support a millage at 3.18 that will go down over the next 20 years. We're not asking for anything remotely close to certainly what other districts are doing, and God bless those districts.
They can do it.
And their community has supported it to that level.
Sure.
And so more power to them. We think we can do incredible things for kids in Flushing at 3.18.
This is actually kind of running into the next question that I found online, saying we just had a millage increase a few years ago, and now we want more. And they're saying with the excuse that our other school districts recently asked for more money too. We need to learn to work within a budget like everyone else.
Sure.
So how do you respond to that?
Well, we have a budget, certainly general fund budget, that pays for our people for the most part. There's not a mechanism in Michigan that allows you to build. There is a small sinking fund, if you will, voter approved, and it was last voter approved in 2020. It's been approved every 5 years since 1986 at 3/4 of a mil to allow you to maintain your property, to fix things that are broken, repair. That gets the district $588,000 a year to be able to put roofs on, to fix boilers, to fix windows, to fix parking lots, to do anything. So $588,000. The project outside of Elms that did the front part, the asphalt, and the side part was over a year's allocation, if you will. And so we have roofing needs, boiler needs, and ongoing needs that we're going to satisfy with that's very small sinking fund, $588,000. And again, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, and people get tired of hearing it. But I'll tell you that 3/4 of a mil for a sinking fund, voter approved, is one of the lowest in the county. And I know it's like, are you kidding me? And people don't realize that we have one of the lowest sinking funds by far. And people can look it up. We have one of the lowest school improvement bonded millage funds, rates, and people can look it up. These are facts, and I appreciate that people are going to vote on facts and not some nonsense that they see here or there, because there's a lack of awareness and
there's all
or
kinds of stuff
understanding.
online.
And so I appreciate the opportunity to clarify, but